Well, welcome back everybody to On the Record. If you are new here, I am Shayna Christine, and you're probably wondering what this podcast is about. Well, you know, when you are cruising through life and you hear that album or that song, and it automatically resonates with you at that time, at that moment, and it's something that just brings you immense joy or helps you get through something that's going on in that moment. That's what we do here. We talk about it. And music is such an important part of the fabric of culture all around the world. And I love taking conversations there for us to be able to dissect music. We celebrate artistry here, whether it's the artists, the songwriters, the producers, we celebrate it all here. But we also talk about how we help each other get through as a result. And music helps us do that, and that is my strong belief. So without further ado, I want to introduce the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Darryl Neal Jr., who's on the podcast today. When I tell you I've been counting down to this episode since I started episodes back with all of these recordings, and I was just like, he has to be on here. So just so you know, Darryl, one, he's family. When I mean family, I mean family. He's in my blood and he's in my veins. And we are super close, but also he is a man of many, 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 many talents. And I have so much respect for him and so much love for him. And his love and passion for music, we started at the same time, at ages 6 and 8.
Yeah.
When we really started our music journey together. And getting him on this podcast was my number one priority. So I want to be able to start the podcast like I always do and ask you, when did your love affair with music begin?
Well, first I'm going to say thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And that introduction was a lot more than I thought that it would be, being the man, the myth, the legend. I appreciate that. But to answer the question, I would say my love for music started around 6.
Yeah.
This beautiful piece of artwork right here.
Yeah.
This is what started it right here. That single disc.
Yes.
Changed everything.
Yeah.
Prior to that, we had seen different illustrations of him, moonwalking.
Yes.
Moonwalker.
Right, the
movie.
Moonwalker. And if you don't know who we're talking about, you listening in, we're talking about Mr. Michael Jackson, the literal GOAT of being an artist. And Darryl is pointing to the Dangerous album, which we'll have plenty of things to talk about throughout this podcast, but continue.
Yeah, so just from track 1, just off the rip, as I would say.
Yes.
It's just his catalog sparked the magic for me.
Yeah.
And it made me see things differently. It had made me listen to music differently. Now, even back then, listening to Dangerous, it played a movie in my head every time.
Yeah.
And so this album takes me back to a simpler time in life.
Mm-hmm.
And that love affair for music just grew and grew until I just learned so much about music. And it's taken me a long way. It's gotten me through some places, but just that love affair of just putting something on and getting lost in it has always been my comfort zone.
Yes, absolutely. It's how do we say, so Darryl and I both have this immense love for Michael Jackson, and I can't even, it's hard to describe how much this man and this artist did for me as a child. And like you said, you started to listen to music differently, because we've all listened to music and grew up with music from our parents, but there was something about Michael that electrified you, whether it was his performance, his vocals, his ad-libs, the beats he chose, the mix of genres he chose to put in each song, you name it, he had you hooked. And for me, it was literally like love at first sight for me. or Love at First Listen.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
just understanding his trajectory and from album to album, how even all of his sounds changed and grew over time is such a beautiful thing to watch. And when we talk about how Michael kind of introduced you to what music really was or how it was valuable for you, and you said it was such a much more simple time at that point. How did Michael get you through that simple time? What was that for you? What did that feel like?
I mean, so like, we grew up in LA.
Yeah.
In the 90s. So, that was that was a different time, and you had to be a different type of kid.
Yeah.
And the world around us was changing. Like, it was literally changing from the earthquakes to the Rodney King trial and the
right.
OJ and so like the world around us, and then we had the riots where literally I was telling somebody the other day, I remember looking outside my window and watching my city burn.
Quite literally, because there on our street where his house was and our grandmother's house was and my dad's house, everything around our house is burned except our homes. Yeah. And that was like the craziest thing to watch. Yeah. It
was very crazy. And I can remember we had a grocery store in our neighborhood burned to the ground. The Jack in the Box that was on the corner damaged. Like, school was suspended for a long time. So it was a very different time. Yeah. But music, being able to escape that, going through that in that particular moment was key for me, because I had a place to be like, okay, this is my sanctuary. This is where I can go and get lost in my imagination. And that also sparked my interest for art. Yeah. I started to listen to music and pick up a notepad and just start drawing just different things. And so the artistry within itself, the music sparked my love for art. Yeah. And then it just grew from there, because anything I could get my hands on, I wanted to listen to. And it didn't just stop with Michael. It grew to, our hip hop era. We grew up at that end of that NWA, Ice Cube, Dre, Snoop. That era was coming into while we were growing up. So that catapulted me into going and listening to hip hop music, which also sparked my interest to be able to write. Yeah. It's like she said, I am a man of many talents. That people don't know about. Yes. But that's where the spark comes from.
I love that. And I ask every single one of my guests who comes on here what role music has played, and I give multiple options, and you pick that it's literally in your every single day life, right? And I'm the one who I cannot live without it. Quite frankly, I just know I can't, right? And with that being like the fabric of how you get through your day now, and we kind of talk through different phases in life, because your music changes, like your preferences and stuff change over time, right? Like we all do as we grow and we get older and more gray hairs and more body aches. They tend to change a little bit. And when I asked you, like, what is that album? And you listed so many, because it's so hard for musicals to really be able to choose one. But and you list so many. And what were some of those that you mentioned?
I mean, it like you say, through the trajectory of life. Like, I am a avid, especially for my teenage years, Get Rich or Die Trying. Yeah. 50 was one of those ones where I had a special connection to, because I feel like I had a point to prove. And as a young man and being uprooted from what you know and going into a new place, you feel like you have to prove a point. Yeah. And like trying to find your place in the world and solidify it. Like not just find your place, but make your stamp and like, I am that guy. Right. And so like everything that I did at that particular point in my teenage years, I felt like I had to keep rich or die trying. Right. So it motivated me to do a lot of the things that I did. As far as like getting through school and getting out into the world and becoming my own man. Like I had to separate myself from the rest of the pack.
Yeah.
Another one that I stuck with was the Black album.
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z.
Oh.
The Black album was one of those ones that I gravitated to. Blueprint 3, that was his. That was more of my early 20s.
Yeah.
You know, like getting myself more established, more grounded. Because those early 20s were a little bit darker for me than I would like to admit publicly, because there was a lot of transitioning. There was a lot of bumps in the road that came along the way. Yeah. So I felt like at first I had to get rich or die trying, but then as I got past those teenage years and into those early 20s, life punched me in the face.
How so? Like how did it come at you?
I say my mom got sick and I got catapulted into a new role in our family.
Right.
And I had to figure things out. I went off to school. I moved out and didn't come back home.
Right.
And so on the verge of losing cars and being evicted, I had to figure it out.
Right.
You know, and so like being an adult is not easy. It's a literal punch in the face.
Right.
Because you have this safety net of being a teenager and be like, okay, I don't have to worry about bills. I don't have to worry about finances. I don't have to worry about these things. But then once you become outside in the world, man, it's just like, okay, what do I do? Do I roll with the punches or do I fold?
Right.
And my thing was I cannot go home.
No.
I have to win at all costs. So when I felt down and when I felt like my back was against the wall, I would go into my room or in my apartment and just listen to music to try to figure this out. Or even write lyrics of my own to try to figure life out. Because I had no inkling of losing. Like I had no, I didn't want to. I couldn't fold because if I went home, I felt like I failed.
Yeah.
You know, and so the next chapter of my life, you know, it comes where I'm a little bit more happier because I found my wife.
Yeah.
So like my catalog changes a little bit more from there. So I'm listening to more of the older music, more of the love songs.
Yes.
The being happy.
Yeah.
You know? So and I gravitate more towards the gospel because my dad introduced me to a lot of gospel music.
Yeah.
The Marvin Sapp's, the Donnie McClurkins, so that type of music kind of slid into my everyday life because my faith walk with God got a lot stronger during that time.
Yeah.
And it's like I was preparing myself to transition from being a young adult to an older adult and actually to start being a family man.
Yeah.
So things changed for me like drastically as far as like my music now. You know, time to time I pop in those earlier albums and take me back.
Yes.
But I never stopped listening to Mike though. Like, never.
You can't.
Never. I never stopped. Let's get that clear.
Yeah.
He never disappeared out of my catalog.
Right.
But yeah, those are the things, those different transition periods are some of those albums that what I listen to, different genres. And now, I say probably here at this particular point in life, it's all about me being happy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, one of my other favorite albums is Nipsey's Victory Lap.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I am just starting to go on my victory tour.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to let nothing stop me from getting to where I want to be.
And I love that because we were having a conversation yesterday about living in a state of fear and operating from a state of fear. And I love all the albums that you kind of talked about. You went from Mike's Dangerous to 50s Get Rich or Die Trying to the Black Album from Jay-Z to the Blueprint 3, right? And then to the gospel version of yourself and then Victory Lap, right? And that's such a change. But all of those albums have such intentional lyrical basis to them.
Yes.
On how to really drive yourself and never stop. Like it's every single one. The theme is don't stop.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just how we were raised. We're not built to stop. But as we were talking about yesterday in the evening, coming into pushing yourself out of your comfort zone to really start becoming that new version of yourself. For us, and we were talking about like what God's telling us to do, but we're so scared to jump into what He has ready for you.
Right.
And I love that you started talking about Nipsey's Victory Lap, because it's like, okay, we're here, and the fear part of it, I'm about to put that on the back burner, right? Whether I'm scared or not, because it's that quote that we talk about, where it's like, if your dreams don't scare you, you're not big enough.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So what is that for you right now that you're stepping into in this Victory Lap?
Oh, man. I think it's just displaying all these talents that I have.
Yeah.
I've always been the guy that wanted to stay in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And I never wanted to be the forefront of anything. Like,
yeah.
Even back in my teenage years when I wanted to start a group. I wanted to start a hip hop group.
Yeah.
And I was literally like fourth on the list of all of the people I wanted to start the group with. I wanted to be like, maybe like the Birdman or the Eazy-E or somebody like that. I didn't want to be the main person. And so when it came to recording songs and writing lyrics, I had the whole thing down packed, but it just was more so like, okay, he's the star, or this guy has more of it than I do, but the drive and the dedication was different for me. Mm-hmm. And even when it comes to this platform and doing this, I never envisioned myself really being in front of the camera until I started popping up on other people's shows.
Yeah.
Like I never wanted to be the guy sitting in front of the microphone saying, "Welcome to another episode." That's never.
But everybody wants you on their podcast, which is so funny because we do.
It's crazy because I never envisioned that for myself. I really didn't, and so now I'm just more in tune with whatever God has for me to accept it.
Yeah.
Whether it be scary or not. Like. Yeah. Stepping outside of my comfort zone, one of my favorite people of all time, and one that has motivated me to go throughout life is Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
The Mamba himself.
Yes.
So, like, to embody some of the things that he has done throughout his life, it's like, I want to be able to do that now. And it's like, the fear of not accomplishing in those things scares me.
Right, that's more scary than the actual fear of doing it.
Yes.
Right?
Most definitely.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. So that's where now I'm just like, okay, it's either now or never. Yeah. And I don't want to ever live my life with regrets of not doing anything.
Exactly.
Because I don't want to be the one to sit there and tell my kids, well, hey, Daddy could have did this or Daddy could have did that, but he was just too afraid to. Right. What is that going to teach them?
Right.
What is, I want them to be able to step out into the world and be like, I can do it all.
Absolutely.
And I don't care what you think.
Yeah.
And so another one of the issues for me has always been the perception of what people think of me. Oh. I have always struggled with people's perception of who they see me as. And there's a lot of people that I know that really, really, really rock with me. Like
hard.
Like really hard.
Yeah.
And I don't do a lot of things because I'm afraid of what people may think. There's that has always been an Achilles heel of mine.
That is something that probably most of our listeners can relate to. And that's so important because fear like that of perception of yourself is paralyzing.
Yes.
Right? But when you're in that paralyzing state, that inhibits the innovation, the creativity, all the things that are beautiful that are going to come out in you.
Mm-hmm.
It stifles that, and it's like, man, but you need to be able to show those gifts.
Yeah.
And that's what's so important. You talk about like, hey, like now I'm gonna go ahead and start pushing myself. Where was that turning point for you? What made that light turn on and be like, hey, it's time? Just in case somebody's listening and be like, this was what it was for me.
Life became uncomfortable.
How so? Talk about it.
So working in the environment that I worked in and all the places that I've been, I have worked my ass off. Sorry, I don't know.
Yes, you can. On this podcast, you can.
So I have worked my ass off everywhere I've ever been in my entire life. I've never cut corners anywhere.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't resulted in what I feel like I deserve.
Yeah.
You know, and I have gotten to a point where it's like I'm tired of not getting what I deserve.
Yeah.
I'm tired of being one of the hardest working people and literally working circles around others.
Yes.
And not getting what I deserve.
Mm-hmm.
And being a husband has also like ignited that drive to want to do things because my wife is one of my biggest motivations to do everything that I do.
Yeah.
You know, like she's one of my biggest cheerleaders. She's there when I have my darkest moments.
Shout out to Bianca. Hey.
She's there for me when I feel like things are getting rough and she talks me through them.
Yeah.
You know, they always say that men don't have safe spaces, but at home, when I walk through those doors, she has created a safe space for me to be able to cultivate security in me being who I am and what I'm doing and know that I'm doing the right things. So her just gifting me that because she didn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Her being able to do that for me has motivated me even more to give her the life that she deserves and for us to live the life that we deserve.
Yeah. I love that. You know I love that. So what is one piece of advice you would give a listener sitting in that same about to be really uncomfortable space and they're just so fearful of taking that leap? What would you tell them?
I would say grace is a word that you have to.
Yeah.
You have to give yourself grace.
Yeah.
Because you can be so afraid, but you can also be so hard on yourself. Mm-hmm. Because the fear of failure paralyzes you so bad sometimes. Yeah. To where you don't even want to attempt it. Mm-hmm. But when you do get out there and you're gonna make some mistakes along the way.
Every single time.
Trying this whole process out of getting out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. People are going to look at you different. They're going to say that you changed. They're going to say that, he wants to better himself or she wants to better herself. And they're leaving you behind. And all those things are going to come at you, but just give yourself grace and give yourself time. Because we always feel like time is our biggest enemy.
I couldn't be happier that you mentioned the word grace. Because when we talk about and we look at all of the people who we consider successful, right? Mm-hmm. What success looks like and what winning looks like. You have no idea how many times that person failed before they got there, right? And most of them failed many times over before they got there. Yeah. But you have to be willing to be comfortable with the failures, be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Yeah. And once you start getting past that, you're like, that wasn't so bad. Okay, let me get up and go ahead and do this and try this again. That's such a big piece. But don't allow the fear of failing because what if you don't fail? Yeah. Right?
Half of the shots that you don't take are the ones that you miss.
Exactly. Legitimately, right?
Half of the shots that you don't take are the ones that you miss. So, like, preparation is also key. Like those moments when you're to yourself trying to figure out how you want to do it, you got to figure out what you want your life to look like. Yeah. What does the fear outweigh the victory? Yeah. In the end, when you look at the grand scheme of what you're trying to do and who you're trying to become, does that fear overpower the end result
Right.
of what you're trying to accomplish. And if it doesn't, then take it one step at a time and give yourself grace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because first of all, let's go back to one of the goats, Mr. J, Mr. Ho himself. He said, "I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman."
Yeah, for sure.
Like, you have to try in multiple things because we're not a monolith. Mm-hmm. Let's be clear. You can do multiple things. Your talents can branch into so many different things. Mm-hmm. You just have to try.
Yes.
That's all it is. And I really want our listeners to understand that attempting that thing, whether it's scary or not, you're going to still feel like it's worth it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Every single time. And guess what? What other people think of you as you're doing it is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Like I said, you can cuss on this podcast. Welcome. When I tell you that is the biggest piece for me at this point, in this stage in my life, right, is understanding that I legitimately no longer care what other people think about what I'm doing. Yeah. Right? And it's glorious once you get here. It takes a while.
It does.
Those of you who are younger, it takes a while for you to get to this stage. And some people never do. That's just up to them. Mm-hmm. But when you realize that I'm here to make sure that I'm okay, my family's okay, all of the people around me that love me are supporting me, that's the only thing that matters. Yeah. That's the only thing that legitimately matters. For sure. For sure. And if you carry that energy, you'll attract the right people around you that support the thing that you're doing.
Yeah, and so I'll add to that. Like, once you start this journey, don't be afraid to leave people behind as well.
Can you say that one more time for the people in the back?
Don't be afraid to leave people behind.
Yes.
Because, I have struggled with that as well, like leaving people behind. Because it's like, oh, yeah, we can do this together, this. Yeah. But I've learned, and this is one of my favorite quotes from Victory Lap. And it's in the first song. Circle got smaller and everybody can't go.
Right. Well, that's bars.
Yeah, I can't. Bars. Everybody can't be there. And I had to learn over the years that, it's not that I love these people less. It's just that they're not sitting at the same table with me. No. But and a friend of mine once said, and as a matter of fact, shout out to Yo for saying this.
Hey, come on, Yo.
Everybody that sit at your table ain't meant to eat.
No.
And I was like, hey, it's kind of rough, but it's a reality.
It's true.
It's a reality, so.
Yep. Let me put a little bit more on that too, because when you are given a gift, whether it's from God or whomever you believe in, however you believe, you need to understand that the gift was given to you. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a group meeting. The conversation was between you and him. Yeah. Okay? It wasn't a Zoom call with other people on it. Right. It's for you to follow. Yeah. Sure. Right? And things will align how they need to align. But remember, like, there wasn't 10 people here that he said you were supposed to bring with you. It's supposed to be you. Yeah. And as you go throughout this journey, you'll attract the people that's supposed to come with you. Yes. Exactly. Because they'll see the vision starts with you. Yeah. But as you go throughout the journey, the pieces that are supposed to be a part of the puzzle will connect. Every single time.
Every time.
And you need to allow that to happen. Now, what inside of your current about to take your victory lap moment is something that you're going towards in this new lap? You can choose one of them, because when I tell you this man has all of the goals and he's going to meet all of them because he is that talented. But what is one of them?
I mean, I know it's one that everybody is talking about now. It's kind of like a hot take for everybody, but freedom. Yeah. The freedom to be able to, financial freedom. Right. Sure. Yeah. But the freedom to be able to live life more abundantly. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things throughout life that we weren't taught as a culture. Yes. And, it's funny to see certain people gravitate towards that, learning how to be free. Mm-hmm. But now, knowing that what freedom really costs,
Yeah.
is something that's really big for me. So like I've challenged myself. And I don't know if y'all watching this, y'all may hear about it later, but I have challenged myself to read a lot more this year, and I have like 39 books that I have that I'm aspiring to read.
Yes.
So like I'm gonna challenge myself to read these books because I know that they're going to add to the arsenal of what I'm trying to do in life and the life that I'm trying to build.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I need y'all to know about this man sitting right here is that every single thing that he wants to know, he will find out. And that's one of the many things that I love about you and respect so much is that he's going to do the research. He's going to dive deep into a subject to figure out all the answers, the ins and outs, the options. And I love that about it. I love that you have that goal for yourself. You're like, nope, I got 39 books I'm getting into because there's stuff that I want to do and the knowledge is what's going to get me there, right? Yeah. And I love that. So give yourself props because one, I know most people, including myself, reading 39 books. It's a stretch for me. I was real excited last year when I got through 5. Okay, you know what I'm saying?
For sure, yeah.
So please know that.
Thank you. Thank y'all. But yeah, it's just I am a sucker for knowledge. Like anybody that knows me knows it's like, hey, he wants to know, he gonna figure it out.
Definitely.
There's not very many things that people can keep from you that I won't do the research on and find out. Like, I don't know about that. I don't know if that's right, but okay, let me go check it out. But yeah, that's one thing, and also being more open. I'm a very, very private person. Like, there's not very many things that people...
Introverts in the house.
Very introverted. And
same.
Y'all
wouldn't know this, but I'm very much an introvert.
I stole this from you years ago. I tell people now that I am a introvert with an extroverted skill set.
Yes, exactly.
So
that's me too.
And I stole it from you. I heard you say it once before, and I was like, I'm going to steal that.
It's true because we know how to learn how to be good in a room or a space, right? Like. You learn how to be social where you need to. You learn how to network the way you need to network. Do all those things. You can learn that as a skill. But is that me innately as a person? Absolutely not.
No.
I'm incredibly uncomfortable most of the time, and I would much rather be by myself.
Yes.
So doing that alone and understanding that about yourself, learn how to dip in and out, right? Like find your comfort zone.
And so I have my village of people. You know, shout out to my people that are out there. I know y'all gonna end up watching this episode because I'm gonna end up having to tell y'all about it. They know me and they know like how I am when it comes to certain stuff. I'll be a listening ear. I'll give you all the advice in the world, but when it comes to Darryl and who he is and what he thinks about himself, it's very, very, very little information out there about who he is.
Yeah.
And that's just how I've been wired my entire life. Like, I think it blossomed more as, and I know blossom is normally used as a beautiful term.
Right.
But me becoming a recluse and sinking into myself more started when I was a teenager. And, you know, being not part of the crowd and being like, okay, I don't like this.
Right.
It was more so of me not liking certain situations other than me being popular or liked. Because I have never been a person that has been unliked by people. At least not to my knowledge. You know, if y'all watching it, y'all like me.
No.
You know.
Darryl is very much liked by a lot of people.
You know, but I've never been that person. So it's just any place that I've ever been or a group of people I've been around, if I'm not talking, that means I'm not really comfortable with you.
Right.
But once you get to know me, you will tell me to shut up. Because I will talk your ears off. Yes. You can ask my wife. You can ask E.T. I know when you're watching this. You can ask him. He'll tell you. I will talk you to death.
Yes.
Because I'm comfortable with you. And I feel like this is a place for me to be able to speak to you. But like, just getting more open with people in this new year. Well, my people, not just any people.
Right, exactly.
Being
Selective.
more, yes. It's very still selective because I have a very small group of people around me. But just being more open with them and letting them know, I love them and we are a part of a fraternity, a village.
A tribe.
A tribe.
Yes, a whole tribe. Yeah. I am the biggest believer in the tribe that probably exists. What I mean, it's friends, it's family, it's those co-workers that end up being friends for life. Like, whom you bring in your circle is sacred.
Indeed.
And I really, really want listeners to understand that, because the people that you realize are the most important, unfortunately, you find out in the really terrible times that happen to you. Right?
Yeah.
But making sure you pay attention to who those real ride or dies are, who the ones who really show up, those are the ones you keep in the circle.
Yeah, right? For sure.
Those are the ones who championing you, and they're not jealous of you. They're just like, I'm gonna be the cheerleader, gang, we in this, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And that is so important. Be selective. You don't need 200 people. Maybe you need a real strong 3, right? That will get you there. But that's so important. Be selective about your circle.
And I can count on my hand the actual amount of friends that I actually do have.
Yeah.
And it's like, I care about people, and you'll know if I care about you or not, because I'm willing to scorch earth and move earth to be able to help you or do whatever we need to do to get you there.
Yeah.
But yeah, keep your circle small, but also value those people within it.
Yeah.
And don't get into those situations to where you're pouring from an empty cup, if that makes sense to y'all.
Let's talk about that real quick.
Okay.
So, pouring from an empty cup will leave you empty and resentful. Meaning, if you aren't giving yourself all of the things that you need, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, to make sure your cup stays full, and you are depleted and still trying to give things away, that's only going to cause your own internal pain.
Yes.
And resentment. And I like to bring the cup into a different metaphor that I was taught about years ago, was I'm not pouring from a cup that's full. I'm pouring from the overflow of the cup to other people, because I want my cup to stay full.
Okay.
Right?
Big experience.
Right.
Yeah.
So you need to understand, not when I'm at 100% am I going to give 30 away so I can be at 70. No. When I'm at 120, I got 20 to give away.
Yeah.
You can understand what I'm saying? You give from the overflow. Make sure you're always full. It's hard to do as a grown person. It is hard when you have the job and you have the pets and the family and the kids and the wife and the friends you're trying to keep connected with and all of the things. It's hard to do. But if you prioritize yourself, you will then have the abundance to give away.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
You do not pour from an empty cup.
And I know we jumping off subject. This is what I do.
Yes.
Don't try to hold on to friendships that are difficult. Don't.
You said a word there.
At this particular age and stage in my life, I don't do difficult friendships.
No.
I have a certain alignment of character and morals that I stand by.
Yes.
And if you're not following within that guideline, or you got, I don't do drama. Anybody know me?
Nowhere.
I don't do drama.
Nowhere in my existence.
Nowhere. So like, I'm gonna tell you, like, hey, bro, I can't get down with that.
No.
Like, I don't move like that.
No.
And so we won't be in contact.
Right.
If you moving or funny.
Yeah.
Because there's a standard of how I move, and I can't get with it.
Make sure boundaries exist.
Indeed.
Boundaries are important for your mental and physical health at certain stance, right? So as we wrap up this episode, one thing I always like to ask at the end of the episode to give to our listeners is what is something you would tell a person who is new, just kind of jumping into their love affair with music to do? What tip would you give them?
Be open-minded.
Yeah.
That's always number one for me. Just because you are a certain demographic, just because you have a certain hue to yourself,
Yeah.
just because
I love hue to yourself.
just because you come from a certain background, just because you're of a certain ethnicity, don't close yourself off to certain genres of music. One of the things that I love about how we grew up is that your dad, the one that kickstarted our love affair with the crates and the CDs and the tape decks, the Walkman.
Yes.
I'm telling how old I am about the Walkman.
You know what? We here. You just don't accept it.
You know,
okay. Yes.
He introduced us to so many different genres of music, and he never closed us off to be like, just because you look like this don't mean you can't listen to this. So like, take and then really lean into it.
Yeah.
Like if you're committing to it, lean into it, see how it makes you feel when you listen to it. Don't like if you feel a certain emotion coming about when you're listening to something, don't just shut it off because you think that it's a weak moment or
that's a human moment.
Yeah, it could be something that brings you joy when you hear it. Yeah. And it's like, oh no, I can't feel happiness. What?
Ooh.
No.
Let it go. Let it flow through your body.
Let that feeling come to you. You know, inside my house, I'm probably like the best artist in the world. In my, my wife was like, I didn't even know you listened to that. I didn't know that you. This is what I do, and this is like what brings me comfort. We have music all throughout the house. Yeah, from record players to smart speakers to keyboards and everything. So like music is ingrained in my blood, and it's I'm pretty soon I'm sure I'm gonna have a music note tattooed somewhere on my arm. Oh yeah, somewhere. I have a full thigh tattoo dedicated to this man right here. And my fourth tattoo coming is going to be dedicated to the purple hero himself, Mr. Prince. Okay. But the dedication to music is literally a part of my soul. Yes. And this being such a gift to the human race overall, just in general, music is what literally fuels us. Yes. And most of us, and we don't even realize it. Music is such a level of therapy that is required to kind of get us going, get us moving, get us to tap into emotions. I'm a big believer in music is what feelings sound like. Yes. Okay. And having your own space inside of that beautiful artistry, I encourage you to jump fully in it. Just like Darryl just said, be open to it all because you'd be so surprised at the things that really kind of capture your spirit. Indeed, that's it. All right, y'all. Well, I am so happy to have gotten to do this episode. And please make sure if you love this episode, go ahead and comment, hit the website, hit the social media pages. Tell us some albums that are helping you right now. Start on your victory lap. I want to see it and I want to hear about it. We appreciate you and we hope to hear you all soon. Right? Peace.